Welcome back, babes. If you are here, you are probably starting off your weekend spiral, and babes, so are we.
Oh, we absolutely are.
We love you, we appreciate you, and babes, go ahead and subscribe because we are your people. Grab your drinks, lock your front doors, and maybe check your Ring cameras just in case because, oh my gosh.
You need to prepare yourselves for this one.
You really do. Because tonight we are burying bodies, uncovering secret decade-long bowling alley affairs, and watching incredibly wealthy people literally vomit on the dinner table.
I mean, it is just absolute unfiltered chaos from start to finish. I am firmly seated with my popcorn for every single agonizing second of it.
Literally agonizing.
Yeah.
Let me just set the vibe for the Snark Squad right now. It is Friday evening. The work week is officially dead and gone, may it rest in peace, and you are here for the criminals, the pure delusion, and the unhinged messiness of this show.
The absolute mess.
Right. We are deep diving into Season 2, Episode 6 of Your Friends and Neighbors, and let me tell you, my jaw has been fully on the floor for the last 24 hours.
It was a lot to process.
It was so much. But before we even get into the recap, I want to talk about the psychology of this for a second. Like, why do messy rich people make such amazing television?
That is the ultimate question, isn't it?
I was thinking about this all day while I was dealing with the general public at work. Are we just like completely obsessed with watching wealthy people be absolutely miserable because it makes us feel better about our own chaotic normal person lives?
Oh, 100%.
Like, is it just pure schadenfreude?
It is definitely schadenfreude, which, for the Snark Squad, is that German concept of experiencing literal joy at the failures of others. But honestly, it goes so much deeper than just petty jealousy.
Wait, really? How so?
Well, let's unpack it from an analytical perspective, because there is a genuine sociological reason we are captivated by this specific brand of disaster. Wealth, especially the kind of absurd generational tech money we see in Westmont Village, it completely isolates these characters.
They live in a bubble.
Exactly. It acts as an artificial, impenetrable buffer against the natural consequences of life.
Okay, wait, an artificial buffer?
Oh.
I love that phrasing.
Mhm.
Like, it physically shields them from reality.
Yes. Think about it. When you have that much money, you don't actually have to develop normal human coping mechanisms. If a normal person makes a mistake, they have to, apologize.
They had to sit in the discomfort.
Exactly. They sit in it. But when these characters make a mistake, they just throw a massive check at a lawyer, or they buy a ridiculously expensive piece of jewelry to smooth things over.
Oh my gosh, the jewelry. We will get to the jewelry later.
We definitely will. But my point is, they don't learn how to process guilt. They don't learn how to communicate. And most importantly for this specific episode, they literally do not learn how to process grief.
Wow.
So when something universal and inevitable happens, like a sudden death or a funeral, things you absolutely cannot buy your way out of.
Right, you can't bribe the Grim Reaper.
Exactly. That financial safety net just completely disintegrates. They are suddenly forced to interact on a base, vulnerable human level, and they literally do not have the software installed to do it. It turns a standard, somber life event into an absolute circus.
They don't have the software. That makes so much sense. It's honestly like watching aliens try to wear human skin and pretend they know how to grieve.
It really is.
They are just malfunctioning left and right because the one tool they have, their money, is completely useless against a casket. And speaking of malfunctioning aliens wearing human skin, can we just quickly debate who would absolutely get caught first in real life if they pulled Coop's cat burglar stunts?
Oh, this is my favorite game.
Because I look at Coop creeping into these smart homes with his little flashlight, and I just know, if it were me, I'd trip over a Roomba in the first 5 minutes and take down the entire neighborhood power grid.
You absolutely would.
I would. I would
Oh.
be loudly apologizing to the vacuum cleaner in the dark.
You'd be offering the Roomba a snack. But if we are looking at the actual cast of characters, Coop only survives his own heists because he is blessed with television plot armor.
Plot armor for days.
In reality, Coop would get caught immediately. Not because he is clumsy, but because his ego is just too massive to sustain a clandestine operation.
Oh, totally.
He can't just steal the jewels and leave. He has to monologue about the craftsmanship of a Cartier wax seal motif cufflink in the middle of a heist.
Yes.
He'd be caught by a Ring camera while giving a full TED Talk to an empty walk-in closet about the history of French enamel.
Right. He'd be admiring the crown molding, analyzing the Pantone color of the accent wall, and the police would just casually tap him on the shoulder.
And he'd critique their handcuffs.
He literally would complain about the metal quality.
Okay, that's...
But babes, before we dive all the way into this glorious, wealthy mess, We have to talk about the drink of the night.
We must.
Snark Squad, listen to me very carefully right now. The drinks on deck tonight are life-changing. We have the Cutwater Mango Margaritas. But we didn't just pour them over ice like peasants.
No, we absolutely did not.
No. We took it to the next level. We mixed them in the Ninja Slush with extra mango juice.
It is dangerously good. It's almost a liability to have this machine in the house.
I am fully spiraling over how good this is. The texture, the consistency, it's like a velvet cloud of tequila and mango.
A velvet cloud.
I am officially demanding that Ninja Slush sponsor us because the obsession is getting entirely out of hand. I have slushied everything in my house at this point.
You were threatening to slush the leftover soup yesterday.
I am looking at my morning coffee pot right now, wondering if I can turn it into a frappuccino. Ninja, if you are listening, and I know you are part of the Snark Squad, cut the check.
Seriously, cut the check.
Send the sponsorship. We are your perfect demographic. Stressed out millennials who desperately need perfectly frozen beverages on a Friday night to cope with reality TV and the exhaustion of the work week.
Let's actually talk about why this machine works so well, though, because the structural integrity of the ice crystals in this thing is honestly a marvel of modern consumer engineering.
Oh, here we go with the science.
No, it matters. When you normally blend a frozen drink, you get large, jagged shards of ice that melt unevenly, and the alcohol immediately separates from the mix.
Oh, yes. And then you get that gross water at the top.
Exactly. Or you get that really harsh bite of straight tequila at the bottom of the glass. But the slush machine constantly churns and freezes at a specific regulated temperature, which perfectly suspends the alcohol within microcrystals of ice.
Microcrystals.
You don't get the bite, you just get pure, unbothered fruit, sugar, and vibes. We are basically giving away free advertising at this point, but it's worth it.
Literally. The microcrystals are carrying me through this week. Ninja, call us. Okay, moving seamlessly to weekend plans, because, babes, the weekend plans are officially locked down.
Thank goodness.
And I am so genuinely excited I could cry. Tomorrow is Saturday, and Saturday is officially reserved for Joan and Felicia from the retirement home.
Yes.
The OG Snark Queens are back in action.
The absolute terrors of the assisted living community. I love them so much, but they are incredibly intimidating.
They are so intimidating. I haven't seen them in forever, and they have been texting me in all caps all week. We have gossip. Bring coffee.
Oh, you know the gossip is going to be ruthless.
They're so ready to spill the tea on everyone in their facility. Apparently, there is a massive scandal involving the sign-up sheet for the water aerobics class, and I need to hear every single detail.
I am invested in the water aerobics drama.
But here is the problem, and we have been vigorously debating this for 3 days. Where do we take Joan and Felicia for brunch? The options are on the table, and the stakes could not be higher.
The stakes are astronomical.
We have the Hive Buckhead, we have French Toast Buckhead, or we have Tea's Brunch Bar.
This is a critical decision. You cannot mess around with brunch for these women.
You really can't.
They are 85 years old, they have lived long enough to know exactly what they want, and they have absolutely zero filter.
Zero.
If the food is subpar, if the service is slow, they will not quietly complain to us. They will destroy the restaurant's Yelp rating right at the table with a single, devastatingly articulate review, and then they will demand to speak to the manager.
See, I am heavily leaning towards the Hive Bucket, completely based on the aesthetics.
See, this is where you go wrong.
No, listen, brunch for me is an entire romanticized experience. It is not just a meal. It is a lifestyle.
It's eggs, Daniel. I mean, it's just eggs and bread.
It's the vibe. It's the perfect, warm, natural lighting streaming through sheer linen curtains. It's the bottomless mimosas served in those elegant little crystal flutes, not the chunky pub glasses.
The pub glasses hold more mimosa.
But it's about the aesthetic. It's the sweet treats, the delicate dusting of powdered sugar on a perfectly plated waffle. I want Joan and Felicia to feel like absolute royalty. I want them to feel pampered.
Okay, here is where we fundamentally disagree. And I am going to get a little aggressive here because someone has to speak the truth, and I will be the voice of reason.
Oh, boy.
Aesthetics absolutely do not matter if the foundation of the breakfast is flawed.
Okay, Gordon Ramsay.
You can have all the sheer curtains and bottomless, watered-down orange juice you want, but the foundation of any acceptable, respectable brunch is the potato.
Oh my gosh, the potato rant again?
I do not care about the vibe. I care about the Maillard reaction.
We're doing breakfast chemistry on a Friday night.
This is important. The correct way to cook a breakfast potato is a delicate science that is completely disrespected by 90% of modern brunch establishments.
Okay.
But you cannot just chop up a raw, starchy russet potato, throw it on a flat-top grill for 4 minutes and hope for the best. That is a crime against carbohydrate.
A crime against carb.
It gets you a chalky, horribly undercooked interior and a burnt, bitter exterior.
Wait, okay, then how are you supposed to do it? Because literally every diner in America just throws them on the grill.
And every diner in America is wrong. You must parboil the potato first. You boil it in heavily salted water with a splash of white vinegar.
Vinegar.
Yes. The vinegar lowers the pH of the water, which helps the potato hold its structural shape so it doesn't turn to mush. Then you drain them and violently rough up the edges in the pot.
Violently rough them up. Got it.
You shake it until you get this starchy, mashed potato-like slurry coating the outside of the chunks. Then and only then do you fry it in a cast iron skillet, preferably in duck fat or beef tallow, until those roughed up starchy edges become a shattered, incredibly crispy shell. That shell protects a pillowy, perfectly cooked interior. If T's brunch bar does not respect the science of the potato, Joan and Felicia will know immediately and they will riot. I will riot with them.
You are terrifying when you talk about root vegetables. You're literally sweating right now.
I am passionate.
But okay, fine.
Yeah.
We will aggressively interrogate the menus for potato integrity before we make a reservation. I concede the point to the duck fat. But before we get to Saturday brunch, we have to talk about today. Highs and lows. Dental office edition.
Oh, help us all.
Because, babes, the Snark squad knows we work at the dental office during the week, and the public today was, they were a lot.
The general public should be studied in a secure subterranean lab.
Truly. Okay, my high today was definitely my second cup of coffee around 10:30 when the caffeine finally hit my bloodstream.
Valid.
My low.
Yeah.
We had a patient today who, I swear to you, treated the dental chair like a Catholic confession booth.
Oh, I heard that happening from down the hall.
We have incredibly sharp tools in their mouth. The suction machine is going, the drill is running. I am trying to focus on their molars, and they are trying to tell us a 10-minute, highly detailed story about their neighbor's landscaping dispute.
With their hands flying everywhere.
I'm like, sir, blink twice if you need me to nod in agreement, but please, for the love of everything, stop moving your jaw. I cannot properly clean your bicuspids while you are passionately debating the legal property lines of a retaining wall.
It's the raw, unfiltered social fatigue, that exhaustion of dealing with the public at the dental office. That is the exact same social fatigue we see on display in this week's deep dive, honestly.
Oh, absolutely.
Customer service face is a grueling physical workout. You are constantly managing other people's emotional dysregulation. My low today was the constant low-level buzz of anxiety trying to manage the schedule.
The schedule was a nightmare.
People show up 20 minutes late, holding a Starbucks cup they clearly just stopped to buy, and still expect a full 45-minute deep cleaning. It mathematically does not work.
It does not.
But the high, the absolute joy of finally clocking out. That specific moment when the front door officially locks, the overhead fluorescent lights click off, the phones get forwarded to the answering service, and you just sit in your car in the parking lot in complete beautiful silence for 5 solid minutes before starting the engine.
It is spiritual.
It really is.
Amen. The weekend transition in the car is a sacred space. It's where you shed the skin of the work week, which perfectly transitions us into the Friday night spiral. Let's get into the main event.
Let's do it.
We are recapping Season 2, Episode 6 of Your Friends and Neighbors, titled For Everything Else, There Was Bowling. And babes, we have to talk about the massive shift in tone.
It was incredibly jarring, but in a brilliant, audacious way. From an analytical standpoint, we need to break down the structure of this episode because Stephanie Lang, the director, pulled off something fascinating. This was a classic bottle episode.
Okay, for the Snark Squad who might not know the industry term, what exactly is a bottle episode?
A bottle episode is a television trope where the show is produced cheaply and restricted in scope. It usually takes place in a single location with only the main cast, no crazy special effects, and no sweeping location changes.
Okay, right.
It forces the writers to rely entirely on character dialogue and emotional conflict rather than action.
Yeah.
So in this episode, we hit a massive pause button on the cat burglar thriller aspect.
Yeah, completely paused.
There are no ski masks, no financial scheming, no tense scenes of Coop hacking into Excel spreadsheets of stolen assets. Instead, Lang delivers this slow-burn, hyper-focused, incredibly claustrophobic character study centered entirely around the sudden death of Ron Cooper Coop's dad and the subsequent funeral.
It was so eerie. My emotional reaction to this episode was completely visceral. The cinematography alone had my nervous system completely shot.
The camera work was very specific.
Do you notice how the camera was just floating the entire time? It felt completely untethered from reality. It would drift slowly through the funeral parlor and then through the living room during the wake, just hovering around people's shoulders.
Yes, the floating effect.
It would catch half of a whispered conversation and then just drift away to someone else mid-sentence. It literally felt like a ghost was wandering through the rooms.
That's a great way to describe it.
I fully convinced myself, about 10 minutes in, that it was Ron's actual spirit just observing his own mess of a family. Or, at the very least, it felt like being a really nosy, socially anxious guest who doesn't want to make eye contact with anyone but desperate wants to hear all the gossip.
That is such a perceptive read on the cinematography. That floating technique, specifically the use of what we call a canted close-up, was a masterclass in visual disorientation.
A canted close-up. Like, the camera's tilted like in the 1960s Batman show when the villains are on screen.
Exactly. It's also called a Dutch angle. It's when the camera is physically tilted off its horizontal axis. When a director does this, it physically strips away the viewer's equilibrium.
Oh, wow.
Your brain relies on horizontal lines like floors and door frames to feel grounded. When those lines are tilted, your inner ear almost feels off balance. It mimics the exact psychological state of grief.
That is so cool.
When you are grieving or when you are at a funeral, you aren't experiencing a linear, grounded narrative. You are experiencing disjointed, disorienting fragments. You remember a tight handshake here, a tearful hug there, a really inappropriate comment made by a distant relative over by the buffet table.
Yes, the inappropriate buffet comments.
The fans online were totally divided on this stylistic choice, by the way. I was lurking in the Reddit threads this morning, and it was a complete split.
Oh, I bet. What were they saying?
Half the audience was saying it was a traumatizing, beautiful masterpiece about the harsh reality of grief, and the other half were absolutely screaming that it was a time robbery because nobody got robbed.
A time robbery. That is so funny. People are sitting on their couches like, where are the lasers? Where are the lockpicks? I came here for neighborhood crime, not an emotional breakdown.
They wanted the ski masks back.
But honestly, the emotional crime of this episode was so much heavier than any stolen jewelry. Let's get into the funeral arrangements and what I am officially calling the Marley problem.
Oh, the Marley problem.
We start the episode with Coop, Ollie, and Marley at the funeral home coffin shopping, which, let's be real, is already the most depressing, weirdly capitalistic retail experience on the planet.
It is the industrial complex of death. And Marley is, without a single ounce of exaggeration, an absolute terror in this scene.
Oh my gosh, she was on a rampage in the first second.
Let's detail her complaints, because the sheer volume and absurdity of them is staggering. Her husband of decades is barely in the ground, and she is actively screaming that the caterer doesn't know how to properly use a vegetable peeler on the carrots.
Over a vegetable peeler.
She is complaining that the house is too small for the guests, even though it's a massive Westmont Village home. She has this immediate, frantic, bizarre need to give away Ron's belongings. She is literally trying to hand off his dirty hedge clippers to random attendees as they walk through the front door.
Okay, I have to jump in and push back on your snark here for a second.
Go for it.
Because while yes, she is acting crazy, my heart was actually breaking for her. We need to ask, is Marley actually a villain here? Or is this just the incredibly messy, frantic, ugly way that an unhappy, deeply lonely woman processes sudden trauma?
It's definitely messy.
Think about the psychology of control. When you lose control of the biggest, most terrifying thing in your life, your husband dying suddenly out of nowhere, you naturally hyperfixate on the tiny, microscopic things you can control.
I see where you're going with this.
You can't control death, you can't negotiate with a heart attack, but you can absolutely yell at a caterer about the julienne on a carrot. It's a defense mechanism. She's not evil. She's terrified of the void in front of her.
That is a very empathetic, emotionally intelligent read on the situation. And I validate that trauma manifests in ugly ways. But let me offer a slightly different analogy for what it actually feels like to interact with Marley in this episode.
Okay, what's your analogy?
Marley's constant contrarianism makes her act exactly like a glitched NPC, a non-playable character in a video game.
A glitched NPC.
Yes. You know when you were playing an RPG and you walk up to a villager and their dialogue tree is just fundamentally broken? No matter what you prompt them with, they give the wrong response.
Oh my gosh, yes.
If you say it's hot outside, Marley says it was freezing 5 minutes ago. If you say you want to help her with the coats, she tells you you're standing in the way. If you leave her alone, she complains that no one is helping her.
That's so true.
She is mentally programmed to automatically disagree with whatever you say, just to establish dominance and feel a fleeting semblance of control over her environment. It's not just acute grief, it's a chronic, exhausting personality flaw that has been deeply amplified by trauma.
A broken dialogue tree.
Right.
That is brutal, but honestly, kind of incredibly accurate. And the sad part is it's affecting everyone around her. Her kids can't even grieve because they're managing her outbursts.
Right, they are just managing her.
Ali's just trying to hold herself together, and she ends up snapping and singing that Warren Zevon song, a cappella, at the cemetery.
That was a choice.
Now, some viewers online found the singing super annoying and cringy, but I thought it was just raw and sad. She didn't know what else to do. But the thing that really got me, the moment that actually made me tear up.
The ghost scene.
Yes. The night before the funeral, Coop is lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, and the camera pans. And he imagines Ron just casually sitting at the foot of his bed in the dark. I literally gasped. It was so haunting.
It really was.
It's that magical thinking of grief where your brain plays tricks on you and you just think, if I wake up, if I just open my eyes wider, this will all be a bad dream and he'll be right there.
It was a beautiful, devastating shot. And it perfectly sets up the thematic divide of the entire episode. The idealized, quiet version of the dead versus the loud, messy, chaotic reality of the living.
The living of the real problem here.
Exactly. Which brings us to the wake. The burial ends, the wake moves back to Marley's house, and the geography of the house becomes incredibly symbolic. The director splits the narrative. You have the upstairs chaos versus the downstairs disaster.
Downstairs was a complete and utter disaster. It is a parade of the most awkward, self-serving guests imaginable.
It's unbearable to watch.
You have people gossiping near the floral arrangements, complaining about the temperature, and literally treating the wake like a Tinder mixer.
A literal Tinder mixer.
There's a guest, this older woman in a terrible hat, actively trying to set Coop up with her divorced daughter, Emily. Ma'am, the man is burying his father. He is staring blankly into the middle distance. He does not want to swipe right on your daughter by the charcuterie board.
It highlights the absolute banality of social obligations. Downstairs is entirely performative. Everyone is playing a role, maintaining appearances, and failing miserably because they are, at their core, entirely self-absorbed.
So self-absorbed.
The mother pitching Emily isn't there to mourn Ron. She's there to secure a wealthy, albeit grieving, suitor for her daughter. It's predatory networking disguised as condolence. But upstairs, it's a completely different show.
Upstairs is where the real healing happens. Ollie escapes upstairs because she is deeply traumatized. She has just realized, by listening to the whispered conversations downstairs, that Ron wasn't actually widely respected in the community.
That was rough.
People thought he was kind of a pushover, which is a devastating thing for a daughter to realize on the day of his funeral. So she and Tori retreat to an old childhood bedroom, lock the door, and start smoking old, crusty, probably expired weed they found in a drawer.
Just incredibly stale weed.
And then the absolute peak of messy television happens.
Yeah.
Mel joins them.
Let's set the stage for Mel.
Please do.
Mel is currently dealing with severe medically induced menopause hot flashes. She is sweating through her silk blouse, and she is actively complaining to anyone who will listen about the neighbor's dog, Arlo, pooping in her yard, despite the brand new, very expensive retaining wall she just had built.
I was crying laughing. Mel, this incredibly tense, wealthy woman, getting high with her daughter and her ex-sister-in-law at her ex-father-in-law's wake, is the chaotic, cozy vibe I absolutely live for.
It was a vibe.
It was a beautiful, weirdly profound bonding moment. Tori literally looks at Mel and calls her unhinged directly to her face.
Right to her face.
But the weed, the isolation of the bedroom, and the shared trauma of having to deal with the insufferable people downstairs actually thaws their icy relationship. By the end of the episode, when they are leaving, Tori actually rolls down the window and waves at Mel from the car. It's actual emotional progress.
It's chemically induced progress, but we will take it. It proves that vulnerability, even when facilitated by expired marijuana, is the only way these characters can actually connect. However, the momentary peace and healing upstairs is completely obliterated by the arrival of the absolute worst person currently on television, Owen Ash.
Oh, my God. Oh, and Ash showing up to the funeral entirely uninvited. I wanted to physically jump through my screen and tackle him into the buffet table.
He doesn't just show up. He aggressively, methodically charms Marley. But we need to pause and really analyze his psychopathic social maneuvering here because it is terrifying.
It's so dark.
Ash is a master manipulator. He walks up to Marley and he drops a very specific, deeply calculated detail about a house that belonged to his dead wife. Coop clocks this immediately from across the room.
Coop's face when he heard that.
Right. Ash is using the tragic backstory of his dead wife as social currency to build instant, unearned trust with a grieving widow. He actively mirrors her grief to bypass her emotional defenses.
And it works flawlessly. Marley loves him. She thinks he's the only one who gets it. And then, the ultimate disrespect, I was screaming at my television. I woke up my dog Ash, leaves the house, wearing Ron's actual belt.
Wearing the dead man's belt.
And if that wasn't enough, he tries to take the giant flat-screen TV that Ron installed in the living room. Who takes a television from awake?
A sociopath asserting absolute unchecked dominance over Coop. Think about the messaging here. Ash knows Coop is watching. By wearing the deceased father's clothing in front of the son and physically dismantling the home by taking the TV, Ash is silently saying, I own you, I own your family, and I own your father's legacy. You are powerless to stop me.
It makes me sick.
It is a chilling, primal display of power. And it pushes Coop to the absolute psychological edge. Coop physically retreats. He goes into Ron's master bedroom, frantically opening drawers, trying to find some piece of his father that hasn't been pillaged by Ash or aggressively given away by Marley. And what does he find tucked away in the back of a drawer?
The Cartier cufflinks. The $4,000 Cartier wax seal motif cufflinks that Coop gifted his dad for Christmas. Totally untouched. Still in the pristine red box, never worn once.
This is the emotional crux of the episode for Coop. Let's use an analogy here to explain the psychology of this gift because it is deeply telling. Gifting lavish, incredibly expensive items to fundamentally humble working-class people is a profoundly selfish act. It is exactly like buying a brand new PlayStation 5 for a 2-year-old toddler.
Wait, I love this analogy. Explain
But
this.
gift is not for the toddler. The toddler does not have the motor skills for a PlayStation. The toddler wants the cardboard box it came in. The PlayStation is entirely for the parent's ego.
Oh, wow.
It's to say to the other parents, look what I can provide. Look how successful I am. Look at my buying power. Coop stares at those untouched Cartier cufflinks and the illusion shatters. He realizes he didn't buy them because Ron, a guy who wears flannel and bowls on Thursdays, needed wax seal motif jewelry for his non-existent French cuff dress shirts.
He didn't even own a French cuff shirt.
Exactly. He bought them to brag about his own wealth. He bought them to soothe his own deep-seated insecurity about out-earning his father. It was narcissistic extension.
That broke my heart. It really did. Because Coop realizes his dad kept them in the drawer. Not because they were useful, not because he liked them, but simply because his son gave them to him.
It was just a token.
It was a trophy of Coop's ego that Ron just quietly, lovingly put away.
Mm-hmm.
And Coop is just standing there in the quiet bedroom with this massive realization of his own flaws. And then, downstairs, the pressure cooker finally explodes. The breaking point hits.
The wake reaches maximum, uncontainable chaos. Marley, functioning in her infinite wisdom as a glitched NPC, has invited Bruce, Ollie's incredibly toxic ex-boyfriend.
Why would she invite Bruce?
She has invited Joan Emerson, who is a walking liability. The ambient noise level is rising, the side conversations are turning into arguments, and then the absolute piece de resistance.
Grace. Barney's heavily pregnant wife, Grace, who has been looking green all episode, literally vomits all over the dinner table.
Just a full systemic failure.
Just a massive wave of projectile morning sickness all over the post-funeral baked ziti and the charcuterie board. It is horrifying, it is disgusting, and it is darkly hilarious. And Coop just snaps.
He hits his limit.
He looks around at this absolute circus of people who don't actually care about his dad, turns around on his heel and walks out the front door. He just leaves his own house.
He grabs Ron's favorite custom bowling ball from the closet and goes straight to the local bowling alley. He is desperately looking for the ghost of his father in a place that actually meant something to the man, far away from the sterile wealth of Westmont Village. And this is where the massive narrative-shifting twist of the episode drops.
He spots the mystery woman. The woman from the cemetery who was standing far away by the trees during the burial.
Yes.
He goes up to her into the bowling alley, and her name is Elaine Naft, played beautifully by the incredible Mayor Winningham. And the reveal, babes, my jaw unhinged. Elaine reveals that she and Ron had a secret, quiet, deeply intimate affair for a decade. 10 entire years.
A 10-year secret.
Yeah. After their mixed doubles bowling team disbanded a decade ago, they just kept meeting every single Thursday night.
Unbeknownst to Marley. Unbeknownst to Coop. Unbeknownst to the gossips of Westmont Village.
I emotionalized this so hard. I know it's controversial, but I think it is tragic. But honestly, it's profoundly beautiful. Hear me out.
I'm listening, but I'm skeptical.
Ron wasn't this miserable, beaten-down pushover who just settled for an unhappy, nagging life with Marley. He carved out a secret, sacred pocket of happiness for himself. He found genuine peace on Thursday nights.
Did he, though?
He did. It completely shatters Coop's toxic fear of settling. Coop has been running his whole life, committing actual felonies, chasing absurd wealth, all because he was terrified of becoming his dad, a guy he thought gave up on joy and just accepted a gray life. But Ron didn't give up. He just found joy quietly. He had a whole rich, vibrant inner life that Coop knew nothing about.
Okay, I am sorry, but I have to bring the snark here because we need to look at the cold, hard facts of the situation. You are heavily romanticizing infidelity. Let's pause and look at what actually happened.
Look at the context.
So the big emotional send-off, the grand tear-jerking revelation of the episode, is that the sweet, humble, supposedly morally upright old dad was actually cheating on his wife for 10 consecutive years. Is this really a heroic finding yourself moment of self-actualization, or is it just incredibly sleazy?
Oh, come on. Sleazy is a strong word.
He lied to his family for 3,650 days. He let his wife think she knew him. He let his kids think they knew him while he was living a complete double life at the bowling lanes.
But look at Marley. Seriously, look at her behavior in this episode. Can you really blame the man for needing a Thursday escape hatch? She complained about the vegetable peeler at his funeral. Imagine living with that energy for 40 years. He needed a safe haven.
You cannot justify a decade-long affair because of a vegetable peeler. That is insane logic. It completely reframes Ron's entire legacy. He wasn't a saint who found a quiet pocket of joy. He was a coward who wanted to have his cake and eat it too.
I just think that's so cynical.
Think about the sociology of it. He kept his comfortable, financially secure family life under one roof, and he actively outsourced his emotional and romantic needs to the bowling alley so he wouldn't have to do the hard, grueling work of either going to couples counseling to fix his marriage or having the backbone to get a divorce.
But divorce back then was so stigmatized.
He took the path of least resistance, and he left Marley to be the bad guy in the marriage while he got to be the victim.
Oh, that is so harsh. But oh my gosh, it is such a good debate because it really forces you to ask what contentment actually looks like and whether we owe our absolute whole truth to our spouses.
Exactly.
Coop leaves the bowling alley feeling weirdly comforted that his dad had a spine, while we, the audience, are sitting here like, wait, your sweet old dad was a player. It's so messy. Which brings us perfectly to our post-recap discussion. I want to talk about survival.
Let's talk survival.
Could we survive this neighborhood if we were suddenly dropped into the zip code of Westmont Village with these wealthy, scheming menaces? What are our actual survival odds?
0. Mathematically, our odds are 0. We would be eaten alive before Tuesday.
I would crack under pressure first, instantly. The second Owen Ash looked at me with those dead, shark-like sociopathic eyes, I would immediately confess to crimes I didn't even commit.
You would fold immediately.
I would be shaking. I'd be like, I took the TV, I took the Cartier cufflinks, I didn't parboil the potatoes, please just don't take my belt. I have absolutely no poker face. I would crumble.
You would fold like a cheap aluminum lawn chair in a hurricane. But if we are analyzing the actual TV characters within the universe of the show, who is fundamentally the weakest link? Who cracked first under real, sustained police pressure?
Oh, definitely Hunter.
I submit to the jury. Hunter, yes. Hunter is a wealthy, coddled, deeply unserious teenager whose biggest problem in life is trying to figure out how to hook up with Delilah in an upstairs bedroom at his grandfather's wake.
He is so unserious.
He has 0 street smarts, 0 emotional resilience, and a fully unformed prefrontal cortex. If Owen Ash even slightly raised his voice at Hunter, Hunter would immediately start sobbing and turn state's witness. He would wear a wire.
Honestly true. Or Ollie. Ollie is so deeply emotional and reactive. If she got brought into an interrogation room and pressured by the police, she would just start singing Warren Zevon to them defensively and accidentally confess to everything through interpretive song.
An interpretive confession.
But what about accidental exposure? Who would accidentally expose the entire criminal scheme? Like, not maliciously on purpose, but just by being incredibly messy and lacking self-awareness.
It would absolutely, without a doubt, be the loose-lipped gossips at the funeral. The women downstairs trying to set Coop up with their divorced daughters. They are the actual surveillance network of Westmont Village.
They really are.
They see everything, they know everybody's schedule, and they weaponize information over glasses of warm Chardonnay. One of them would notice Coop's car parked outside a house he was robbing at 2 in the morning, and they wouldn't call the police. That's too direct.
Right, they just hint at it.
They would just casually mention it at a Tuesday afternoon book club, and the entire criminal enterprise would unravel through a massive game of wealthy suburban telephone.
Exactly. The neighborhood watch in Westmont Village isn't the police. It's just bored rich women with binoculars and too much free time. But on the flip side, who is actually smarter than they seem? Who is quietly playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers?
Elaine Naft.
Yes, the bowling alley mistress.
Think about the operational security required here. Elaine hid an affair for 10 years in the modern digital era. Think about how hard that is.
It's impossible.
No digital footprint, no suspicious text messages accidentally popping up on Ron's iPad, no shared bank statements, no paper trail. She kept it entirely flawlessly contained to Thursday nights at a cash-only bowling alley. That level of discipline and secrecy is literal CIA-level tradecraft.
CIA level.
She is far smarter than Coop. Coop is out here leaving his DNA all over the tri-state area, dropping expensive jewelry and monologuing to himself, and Elaine is moving through the world like a complete ghost.
She really is an icon of stealth. Or, honestly, maybe even Marley's the smartest one. Like, what if Marley knew the whole time?
Oh, that's a theory.
Think about it. What if Marley is playing a much longer, much darker game than anyone realizes? And she just happily let Ron have his Thursday bowling night so she wouldn't have to deal with him being around the house? What if she preferred the vegetable peeler to her husband?
That is a terrifying thought.
The layers of this show. Okay, babes, let's get into our official segments for the night. Segment number 1, neighborhood criminal energy. Who had the most suspicious, unhinged behavior this episode?
We have to target Owen Ash. I know we extensively talked about it, but wearing a dead man's belt to his own wake is top-tier, Hall of Fame criminal energy.
It's so disrespectful.
The sheer audacity, the raw, unfiltered psychopathy required to physically flex on a grieving son in his own home like that. It's not just suspicious behavior, it's a terrifying declaration of psychological war.
It's so unhinged. But I also want to call out the random funeral guests treating the wake like a Tinder mixer. The woman actively pitching her daughter Emily to Coop while he is literally staring into the middle distance, fully disassociated in grief.
Yeah, that was wild.
That is highly suspicious behavior. That is predatory networking at its finest. It should be illegal.
Accurate. Moving right along to segment 2, the Rich Person Delusion Awards. Who is the most wildly out of touch tonight?
I am officially nominating Coop. Buying $4,000 wax-sealed Cartier cufflinks for a guy whose absolute greatest joy in life is a Thursday night bowling league and a cheap draft beer in a plastic cup.
A plastic cup.
It is so deeply, embarrassingly delusional. It's like buying a custom-tailored tuxedo for a golden retriever. They don't want it, they don't need it, they don't understand it, and it just makes you, the owner, look completely ridiculous and out of touch.
I will absolutely co-sign that nomination, but I also have to nominate Marley for the Delusion Award.
Oh, obviously.
Complaining loudly about the catering staff's inability to use a vegetable peeler while her husband of 40 years is barely in the ground is peak wealthy delusion. The world has literally stopped turning, her entire life is shattered, her children are weeping, and her primary overriding concern is the julienne on the carrots. It is a stunning, almost majestic display of misplaced priorities.
Truly award-winning delusion. Segment 3. Who would get caught first? We need to definitively rank the characters from smartest to messiest based strictly on tonight's episode.
At the very top, the absolute smartest, as we establish, is Elaine Naft. 10 years of infidelity, 0 digital footprint, absolute stealth mode. She is the apex predator of secrets in Westmont Village.
Right below her, I'd actually put Mel. Mel was smart enough to recognize a sinking ship. She retreated upstairs, self-medicated with expired marijuana, and completely avoided the entire social disaster happening downstairs.
That is true.
She accurately assessed the threat level of the living room and successfully evacuated. That's survival instinct.
Down at the very bottom, the absolute messiest, most liable character is Grace.
Oh, definitely.
Throwing up on the buffet table is a catastrophic failure of situational awareness. If Grace was somehow involved in a high-stakes heist, she would inevitably sneeze during the laser grid sequence, trip over a wire, and trigger every single silent alarm in the building.
Poor Grace. Her morning sickness is taking her down, but you are not wrong. Okay, final segment before we log off for the night. Weekend spiral check-in.
Yeah.
Snark Squad, we always share our real-life weekend status, so you know we are right there in the trenches with you. We each have to share one weekend goal, one chaotic plan, and one thing currently stressing us out. I'll go first.
Let's hear it.
My weekend goal is surviving brunch with Joan and Felicia without them making an innocent waiter cry over a mimosa ratio.
Godspeed to you and whichever restaurant staff draws the short straw tomorrow.
Thank you, I will need it. My chaotic plan. I am absolutely making another massive pitcher of slushy margaritas in the Ninja the exact second we stop recording this audio.
Unsurprising.
And the thing's stressing me out. Trying to figure out what to wear to brunch tomorrow that says, I deeply respect my elders and I am a responsible adult, but also screams, I am a fun, vibrant youth who knows how to have a good time.
Yeah.
It's a very thin, impossible sartorial line to walk.
Okay, my turn for the spiral check-in. My weekend goal is to successfully execute the perfect breakfast potato utilizing the rigorous parboil and cast iron duck fat method, just to prove to myself that the physical laws of the universe still make sense and that true culinary excellence is achievable at home.
You are obsessed.
My chaotic plan is to text my ex at 1 in the morning tonight, just to see what happens, just to shake the table.
No, absolutely not. Do not do that. Put the phone in another room.
I embrace the chaos. I want to see the typing bubble appear and disappear.
You are going to ruin your own weekend.
And the thing stressing me out, the looming dark specter of Monday morning at the dental office. Knowing that the 9 a.m. schedule is already double booked, and the main suction machine in room 3 was making a very weird grinding noise when we locked up today.
Ugh, the Sunday scaries are already activating and it's only Friday. But babes, we have made it through the deep dive. Before we go, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought that we didn't even touch on yet.
What's that?
Chew on this over the weekend. Is Coop's entire life of crime, the burglaries, the heists, the reckless monologuing, is it all just a subconscious attempt to finally get caught? Does he secretly want to go to prison just so he doesn't have to carry the exhausting burden of his father's legacy and his own hollow wealth anymore? Think about it.
That is a very deep thought for a Friday.
Snark Squad, we want to express our immense, undying gratitude to you for hanging out with us during this Friday spiral. We love doing this with you every week.
You are genuinely the best, most unhinged community on the internet, hands down.
But we need you to hit the comments right now. We have homework for you. First, tell us your absolute favorite brunch food in the entire world. Are you team aesthetics like me, or are you aggressively team potato?
Team potato is the only correct answer.
Second, weigh in on the Buckhead brunch spot. The Hive, French toast, or teas. We desperately need a tiebreaker before we pick up Joan and Felicia tomorrow morning. And third, who do you think would get caught first in real life if they tried a Westmont Village scheme?
Let the debates begin in the comment section.
Remind yourselves to like, comment, subscribe, and please send in your own messy real-life stories for future episodes. We want to hear about your bad dates, your insane family drama, and your petty neighbor wars over property lines.
We want all the mess.
Send it all to the Snark side. And finally, remember,
Wait, I'm not supposed to say it, am I?
stay messy, stay suspicious, and we will see you on the Snark side.